The Constitution of India. Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Hello children, how do you do? Hope you are healthy and happy and sailing in the same boat as we are here in the school. Dear children, all that we are is the result what we have thought. All the achievements we receive are due to our attitude as well as the power of thinking. Miracles takes place in the mind. So dear children, think high and work hard. Do not take rest until you achieve your goal. By saying this, I move on to today's session. In the previous session, we have started with a new lesson, chapter number 7, that is transport in plants, and now we are going to understand and learn the next part of that lesson, that is long distance transport of water. In the previous class, we understood what is diffusion and we came to know that diffusion is a slow process. Therefore, long distance transport of substances within the plant cannot be carried out by diffusion. That is, in the tree or the plant which is having height, in that long distance transport of material is been taking place, and diffusion, it is a slow process. Therefore, it is not possible to carry the material to the tip of the plant by the process called diffusion. Water, food and minerals are carried or moved by mass flow. So, how the materials are transported? It is being transported by mass flow. Bulk movement of substances through the vascular tissue is called translocation. So, what is translocation? The movement of substances or the material through vascular tissue in bulk way or in the mass flow. These materials will be moved with the help of vascular tissue, and that type of movement or transportation is called translocation. Xylem is associated with the translocation of water, mineral, etc. In the case of xylem, it is associated with the transportation of water, mineral, etc. And phloem is associated with the translocation of organic food. The food which is prepared by the plant will be transported to different part of the body with the help of phloem. Now next, how do plants absorb water? Root hairs absorbs water by diffusion. The water absorbed by the root hairs move deeper into the root layer by two pathways. The water which is absorbed by the root hairs will be moving deeply into the cells of the root by two pathway. Number one is apoplast pathway, number two is symplast pathway. These two pathway is very important, my dear children. You have to understand it and you have to learn it. Movement of water through plants. A. The apoplast pathway. Water and dissolved ions move through the cell walls between the cellulose molecules. So, the water and the dissolved ions, if they are moving through the cell wall, isn't it? That is called apoplast pathway. And B, so this is apoplast pathway A. Through cell wall, the water and the dissolved ions are moving. Now B, the Symplast pathway, water goes into the cell through the plasma membrane into the cytoplasm. It moves from cell to cell through the plasmodesmata. We know what is plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata is the pores which are seen between the cell. So, what is happening in Symplast pathway? Water, it is moving into the cell through plasma membrane. This is Symplast. So, into the cell membrane the water is moving, and from there it is moving into the cytoplasm, and it moves from cell to cell through plasmodesmata. That is the Symplast pathway. And the C, that is the vacuolar pathway. Water goes into the cell through the plasma membrane into the cytoplasm and then into the vacuoles. So, in the cell we know vacuoles are present there. So, vacuolar pathway means through vacuole the water will be moving from cell to cell. So, this is what Symplast, apoplast and vacuolar pathway. Among these three you have to study apoplast pathway as well as Symplast pathway. I think, my dear children, you would have understood. So, we can see again, here you can see this is the cell, and you can see here symplastic pathway and apoplastic pathway, isn't it? This is plasmodesmata, that is from cell to cell there is a pore that is called plasmodesmata. So, pathway of water movement in the root. So, when the root is taking, that is root hair is taking or absorbing the water, from the root hair the water will be entering deeper into the cells of the root, and there we can see symplastic pathway as well as apoplastic pathway. Symplastic pathway means from cell to cell the movement of water is taking place through plasmodesmata, and apoplastic means from cell wall to cell wall the water is moving from one cell to another cell. Okay. That is related to the pathway of water movement in the root. We can see here water is absorbed by the root hairs. Then what happens? Most of the water flows through cortical cells via apoplast. Cortical cells means through the cortex region the water will be moving, and that process, or we can say the pathway through which the water is moving, that pathway is apoplastic pathway. So, through apoplastic pathway the water is flowing through cortical cell, and when it reaches the endodermis, what happens we can see. When the water reaches the endodermis, their endodermis is impervious to water because of the presence of Casparian strip which is suberized. That is, suberin is present there, and this Casparian strip is impervious to water, it will not allow water to enter into it. So, endodermis is the area where the water will be reaching, and but from there the water cannot move to the next part because Casparian strip is present there. So, what is happening we can see. Water flows through the passage cells of endodermis by Symplast pathway. So, after reaching endodermis, the water will be flowing through the passage cells present in the endodermis by Symplast pathway. So, through Symplast pathway the water will be entering into the passage cells of endodermis. Thus, water moves by Symplast pathway, crosses the membrane reaching the xylem. So, in this manner water will be moving through Symplast pathway, and it will be crossing the membrane and thus reaching the xylem. Hence, Symplast is the only way by which water reaches the vascular tissue. So, Symplast is the only way. So, Symplast pathway is the only way through which water will be reaching to the tissues. In the diagram we have seen, isn't it, my dear children? You can see here what is happening. Through the cortical cells of the cell wall, the water is moving from one cell to another cell, but when it reaches the endodermis area, there you can see this is Casparian strip. It is impervious to water, it will not allow the water to pass through it. So, from here the water will be taking another way, and it will move into the cell with the help of passage cell, and from there it will be reaching into the pericycle through plasmodesmata. That is, this is symplastic pathway, and from pericycle the water will be reaching into the xylem. Okay, my dear children. So, this is how it has been said that for reaching the water to xylem, symplastic pathway is needed there. I think you would have understood about apoplast and symplast. So, we can see soil water is there, it will be absorbed by root hair. From there the water reaches the cortical cell or cortex region. From there it enters into the passage cell present in the endodermis, and from there the water reaches the xylem vessel. You can see this is symplastic pathway, directly the water enters into the xylem. But apoplastic pathway, you can see what is happening there. Cortex cells are there, but as endodermis is present there, so from there a divergent will be taken place, or a route will be changed there by the water, and with the help of symplastic pathway the water enters into the xylem. I think you would have understood about the symplast and apoplast, my dear children. It is very important. That figure is also very important. Now, next one is mycorrhiza. Already we know what is mycorrhiza. It is the symbiotic association of a fungus with the roots of higher plants. It helps in water and mineral absorption. Here fungus provide water and mineral to the roots, and roots provide sugar and nitrogen containing compounds. Example, in the case of pinus seed, pinus seeds cannot survive without the mycorrhizal association. It needs mycorrhizal association. So, this is what mycorrhiza, it is again important. Next one, water movement up a plant. Water movement up a plant. From the root, now the water has to move to the tip of the plant, and that is called ascent of sap. So, the upward movement of water from the root towards the top of the plant is called ascent of sap, and this takes place through the xylem. And there are theories related to water translocation, and the three theories of water translocations are root pressure theory, cohesion theory, and capillarity theory. So, water from the root will be moving towards the upper part of the plant body, and it has to reach to the tip of the plant, and the upward movement of water from the root towards the tip of the plant is called ascent of sap, and this movement of water is taking place with the help of xylem. And there are theories related to the upward movement of water, and the three theories are there. Number one, root pressure theory, cohesion theory, and capillarity theory. So, one by one we can see these three theories. Number one is root pressure theory. The positive hydrostatic pressure developed in the root cells due to the accumulation of water absorbed by the root is known as root pressure. So, what is root pressure? It is a positive hydrostatic pressure, and it is developing in the root. And why it is developing? Because of the accumulation of water which is being absorbed by the root. So, root, when it is absorbing water, automatically what will happen? A pressure is developed there in the root, and that pressure is called hydrostatic pressure, and that is a positive pressure, and that is called root pressure. It occurs due to the active absorption of water. It is responsible for pushing up water to small heights in the stem. In herbaceous plants only this root pressure theory is applicable. It has been said here, you can see, pushing up water to small heights in the stem. And the another evidence for root pressure is guttation. In the case of guttation, that is, it is a process where the water is seen in the form of water droplets on the surface of the leaves, or we can say on the edge of the leaves, isn't it? So, this guttation is one of the evidence of root pressure. That is, in the early morning when we are watching a leaf, we can see on the, that is especially the grass leaves, we can see on the side or the margin of the leaf we can see droplets of water, and that is guttation. So, guttation is one of the evidence of root pressure. So, grasses, they are the herbaceous plants. So, root pressure theory is applicable only in the herbaceous plants or small height plants. Understood, my dear children? Next one, what is guttation? It is defined as the loss of water in the form of liquid drops through specialized pores called hydatodes. So, in the grasses we can see on the margin of the leaf small minute pores are there, and they are called hydatodes, and through that pore what is happening, water is coming out in the form of water droplets, or we can say liquid droplets, and that process is called guttation. Guttation is especially seen in early morning. Okay, my dear children. So, it is again important. Now, next one is water transport. You can see osmosis. In the case of osmosis, root pressure and guttation is there. Water entering root cells creates a positive pressure, that is called root pressure, and root pressure tends to push xylem sap upward the plant. And guttation is the appearance of drops of water along the edges of leaves. It is the result of root pressure. So, root pressure is not a sufficient mechanism for water to rise to the top of the trees. Root pressure theory is not applicable for the trees or the plant which is having height, as it is not able to pump the water to that end of the plant. So, it is applicable only to the herbaceous plants. Next one, you can see in most of the plants the water transport takes place by transpiration pull. So, in most of the plants, that means the plants those who are having height in them, the water transport is taking place by transpiration pull. So, number 2 is transpiration pull theory. The pulling force developed in the water column of xylem vessel due to transpiration is called transpiration pull. The pulling force developed in the water column of xylem vessel. My dear children, we know that water from the stomata is coming out, isn't it? In the leaf, mesophyll cells are present there, and near to the mesophyll cells there are other cells, they are associated with the mesophyll cells. So, what will happen during transpiration process? The water will be coming out through stomata and moving out of the leaf. So, what will happen? The water potential will be decreasing in the mesophyll cells, and mesophyll cells, they will start to pull water from the adjacent cell, and in that manner the adjacent cell will be getting deficiency of water, and it will start to pull water from its adjacent cell, and like that the pressure or the pull will be reaching to the stem, and then lastly it will be reaching to the root, and this pressure or the pull which is been pulling the water from the root again back to the leaves is called transpiration pull. So, here it has been said pulling force developed in the water column of xylem vessels, it is taking place because of transpiration, that is called transpiration pull. The factors responsible for ascent of sap are cohesion of water molecule, adhesion of water molecule to the xylem vessel, and transpiration pull. These are the 3 factors which is helping for ascent of sap, that is which is helping for pulling the water from the root to the tip of the plant. The first factor is cohesion of water molecules, number 2 adhesion of water molecules to the xylem vessel, and number 3 transpiration pull. So, we can see cohesion, the attraction between similar molecule is called cohesion. Okay. Here what is happening, you can see this part, transpiration. What is transpiration in the leaves? Evaporation of water from stomata creating a tension that pulls the water column from root to leaf. So, because of the transpiration taking place in the leaf, what will happen? A tension is developed there, isn't it, into the root, and from there the water is being lifted up through xylem vessel. Now, water rises through xylem vessel because of cohesion and adhesion. When a tension is developed there in the root, automatically the root will be absorbing the water from the soil, and it has been taking place because of cohesion and adhesion process. What is cohesion? Water molecules are attracted to each other, and number 2, adhesion, water molecules form hydrogen bonds with the xylem cell wall. So, these two processes will be creating a xylem vessel wall, or we can say it as a column. A column of xylem vessel is been created there in the plant, and through that column from the root the water is being lifted to the area where water is deficient. Next, you can see root pressure created when water enter root cells via osmosis, isn't it? Because of cohesion, new water molecules is drawn from the xylem, which is replaced by water from the roots. So, because of transpiration, cohesion and adhesion is taking place, and because of cohesion and adhesion, root pressure is created there, and because of root pressure, what will happen? Water will be drawn from the soil and it will be absorbed by the root hairs, and from there the water is taken to the tip of the plant by the help of column formed by the xylem vessels. So, this is how the transpiration pool theory is taking place. You can see here water losses due to transpiration, and because of that pressure is taking place, and that pressure or that pull which is been taking place is reaching, you can see this arrow is reaching to the root, and root pressure will be created there, and because of that ascent of sap is taking place. Here transpiration pull is taking place, and this side you can see ascent of sap. Okay. So, when transpiration pull takes place, root will be pressurized to absorb water and ascent of sap is taking place. So, this is how ascent of sap is taking place in the plants. When transpiration pull is exerted, a negative pressure, that is tension, is generated in the xylem. This tension is transmitted down to the root. Tension causes uptake of water by the root. This is what the process is telling about the transpiration pull. Now, the next one is the capillarity theory. It refers to a rise in water in tubes of small diameters kept in a vessel containing water. That is, in a vessel water is there and there is a tube, and in the tube the rise of water is taking place, and that is called capillarity theory. This rise in water occurs due to force of adhesion and cohesion. Here also what is happening? The adhesion and cohesion is taking place, and due to that the water is rising through the tube. So, this is what capillarity theory. You can see what is transpiration. Transpiration is the loss of water vapor through the stomata of the leaves. And what is transpiration? It is the loss of water vapor through the stomata of leaf is called transpiration. You can see water is lost by transpiration, isn't it? So, that is transpiration. Now, as transpiration is taking place through the pores present in the leaf of the plant, and those pores are called stomata. Already we understood the structure of stomata in 4th chapter. So, here you can see what is stomata. Stomata, singularly it is called stoma, and these are the pores in the leaf, mostly on the under surface. Each pores, they are surrounded by a pair of guard cells, and the guard cells can change shapes to open or close the stomata. So, the opening and closing of stomata is taking place due to the guard cells present there. Okay. So, see, you can see here guard cells swollen. When the guard cells are swollen or turgid, stomata is open. Now, here when the guard cells it is shrunken or flaccid, the stomata is closed. So, this is how the guard cell is maintaining the regularity of stomata opening and closing. Cellular microfibrils are oriented radially, making it easier for stomata to open. We have seen stomata are opening, and it is taking place because of the cellular microfibrils present in the guard cells. Cellular microfibrils are present in the guard cells, and they are oriented radially. That is why stomata are opening. Now, when turgidity increases, the outer wall bulges out and stomata opens. When the water entering into the stomata will create a turgid environment, and because of that what will happen? Stomata opens. Now, when turgidity is lost due to water loss, guard cells become flaccid and stomata becomes closed. Here you can see guard cells is getting flaccid and the stomata is getting closed. Why the guard cells is flaccid? Because the turgidity is not there, water is lost there. Okay. So, we can see the changes in guard cell shapes and stomatal opening and closing. This is how the stomata is opening and closing. So, here you can see the stomata is closed here and here stomata is open, isn't it? Because of the radially oriented cellulose microfibrils are present there, which is helping the stomata to open. So, that is important, my dear children. Now, the factors we can see which are affecting transpiration. There are external factors as well as internal factors. External factors such as temperature, light, humidity, wind speed, all these factors are affecting the rate of transpiration. In the same way, internal factors are there such as distribution of stomata, water status of plant. This will be surely affecting the rate of transpiration in plants. Now, what are the advantages of transpiration? We can see it creates transpiration pool, it supplies water for photosynthesis, it transports mineral from soil to all plant body, it cools leaf surface and it maintains shape and structure of plants by keeping the cells turgid. So, this is how the transpiration is a beneficial part for the plants. So, this is the advantages and it is very, very important. Now, we can see transpiration and photosynthesis a compromise. Water, we know that water is essential for the plant in photosynthesis. The rate of photosynthesis is decreased if the water availability is less. We know that for photosynthesis water is important, and if water is decreased, surely the rate of photosynthesis will be affected. The humidity of rainforest is largely due to transpiration. C4 plants, that is plants having maximum uptake of carbon dioxide and minimum water loss, those plants are called C4 plants. These plants, they will be taking more amount of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and through their leaves the transpiration rate will be very less. These plants are called C4 plants. Fixes more carbon than C3 plants. In the case of C3 plants, water loss will be more, isn't it? That is why when a comparative study is being done, it is been said that C4 plants, they are able to fix more carbon dioxide than C3 plants. Uptake and transport of mineral nutrients. So, till here we have understood how water is being transported from the root to the tip of the plant. Now, we are going to understand about how the mineral nutrients are taken and how they are transported. We know that these nutrients are available in the soil and it has to be taken by the plants for its growth and development. So, how this process is taking place? So, it is being taking place by two methods: passive absorption of minerals and active absorption of minerals. What is passive absorption of minerals? The absorption of mineral ions without the use of metabolic energy is called passive absorption of minerals. Already we know what is passive absorption. Here no ATP is being utilized, or we can say no energy consumption is taking place, isn't it? That is absorption of mineral ions without any use of energy. That is called passive absorption of minerals. And active absorption of minerals, it is absorption of mineral ions against the concentration gradient and with the use of metabolic energy. Already we know that what is active absorption. Here the absorption is taking place, but it is been taking place against the concentration gradient, and energy is utilized in this process. Energy is needed in the form of ATP. The active absorption of ions create a potential gradient in the roots, and this leads to the uptake of water by osmosis. So, potential gradient will be taking place there in the root, and because of that, from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration, the mineral will be moving, and that time energy is utilized. The endodermal cells have transport proteins which actively pump ions from the soil. Endodermal cells in the root, they are having proteins present in them, and these proteins will be pumping the mineral which will be absorbed from the soil, and it will be transported to the plants. Next one, translocation of mineral ions. How the mineral ions are translocated? The chief sinks of mineral elements are growing regions of plants such as young leaves, fruits, seeds, storage organs, etc. That means the area where mineral elements are present there, that chief sink is young leaves, fruits, seeds and the storage organs. Next, uploading of mineral ions occur at the vein ending through diffusion and active uptake by the cells at sink. Uploading of mineral ion is taking place how? By the help of vein ending, and that is been taking place through diffusion, and because of diffusion, active uptake of the mineral is being done by the cells at the sink area. Now, mineral ions are remobilized or removed from older part to the younger part. We know that older part, it will be anytime it will be removed from the plants. So, if any mineral ion is present there in the older area such as leaf, from there it will be transported to the younger part of the plant. That is mobilization or we can say remobilization or removal of mineral ion from older parts to the younger parts of the plant. Next, structural components like calciums are not remobilized. Calcium which is being there for the formation of the structure of a plant a part such as chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the part where the magnesium is one of the part present in chlorophyll. So, such kind of elements will not be remobilized, will not be removed from that part. So, here calcium is one of the component which is used there in the structural component as structural component, and these are not remobilized, these are not transported from one part to the another part. You can see translocation of mineral ions. Mineral ions are frequently remobilized, particularly from older senescing parts. Older dying leaves export much of their mineral content to the younger leaves. See here, mobilized elements are phosphorus, sulfur, nitrogen and potassium. These mobilized elements, that means these elements can be removed from one part and it can be taken to the another part, except like calcium which are used for the formation of the structure, they are not remobilized. I think you would have understood about the translocation of mineral ions. Now, the next one is phloem transport. Flow from source to sink. That is, food mainly sucrose is transported by phloem from source to sink. Source means the area where it is prepared, and sink is the area where it is stored or utilized. So, you can see source is the part of plant which synthesize food, and sink is the part that needs or store food. Source and sink may be reversed depending upon the source or plant's need. Source and sink, it can be reversed. That means sink can become source and source can become sink. Depends upon the source or the plant's need. Now the direction of movement of the food in the phloem is bidirectional. Bidirectional means from the tip to the root and from the root to the tip. Bidirectional flow of movement of food is taking place in the case of plant through phloem. The pressure flow or mass flow hypothesis. Now we are going to understand about the movement of food taking place there in plant, and it is through a hypothesis called pressure flow hypothesis or mass flow hypothesis. The mechanism used for the translocation of sugar from source to sink is called pressure flow hypothesis. So here we can see what is happening. Number 1, transpiration pulls water up in the xylem vessel. Because of transpiration, what will happen? Water will be pulled to the xylem vessel. Number 2, sucrose cells, they are loaded with, that is the source area. This plant is the source area, this leaf is the source area, and these cells, these source cells, they are loaded with sucrose into the phloem sieve tubes, and because of that, what is happening? The water potential will be decreased here. Sucrose is the solution which is having higher concentration of sugar and lower concentration of water. Surely when we are taking the water potential of that area, in that area the water potential will be decreasing, and due to that what happening? So water is taken up from xylem vessel by osmosis, rising the pressure potential in the sieve tubes. So in the phloem, what is happening there? Phloem sieve tube, the water from the xylem will be transported into the sieve tube, and from here the sucrose will be transported into the sieve tube. So when the sucrose will be moving into the sieve tube, the presence of water will be increasing the water potential in the sieve tube present in the phloem. The fourth one, internal pressure difference drives the sap down the sieve tube to the sink cell. So from there the pressure will be created there, and from this part, that is leaf area, the through sieve tube the sucrose will be transported to the sink area where it is going to be stored. Next one, sucrose is unloaded into the sink cell. So here the sucrose is unloaded, and again what will happen? Water moves back to the xylem vessel. After the sucrose is unloaded here, the water from the sieve tube of the phloem will be entering back into the xylem vessel. This is how pressure flow theory is telling about the movement of sucrose from source to sink. Once again I will repeat this part, my dear children, it is very important. What happens? Due to the transpiration pull, the water will be pulled to the xylem vessel, and in the source area what happens? The sucrose will be loaded into the sieve tube. From the source area, the sucrose which is prepared there will be loaded into the sieve tubes. The source area is the leaf. From there, after the production of sucrose, it will be loaded into the sieve tube. Now when it is loaded into the sieve tube will be having the higher concentration of sugar and less concentration of water. So the water potential will be decreasing here. Due to that, what will happen? From the xylem vessel, the water enters into the phloem sieve tube, and there what will happen? The water potential increases, and due to the pressure developed there, the sucrose will be transported to the sink area where the sucrose will be unloaded, and as the sucrose will be unloaded, the water will be returning back to the xylem. This is the mechanism which is taking place in plant for the transportation of sucrose from the source to the sink, and this hypothesis is called pressure flow or mass flow hypothesis. I think you would have understood about it, my dear children. It is very important. Next one, you can see the diagrammatic presentation of mass flow hypothesis. This diagram is there in your textbook. isn't it? Huh? So here you can, as I told you, you can go through it, and this is another diagrammatic presentation where you can see sugar is formed here through photosynthesis. This is the sieve tube element of phloem, and this is the xylem. So through transpiration, what is happening? The water is entering into the xylem, and through osmosis water moves into the sieve tube, and this sugar, when it reaches there, that is before the water enters, that time the sugar will be present here, and this sieve tube will be having higher concentration of sugar and less concentration of water. So water potential gradient will be developed there, and because of that, through osmosis water from xylem will be entering into the sieve tube, and a pressure flow will be taking place. Due to that, the sugar will be moving towards the sink area where the sugar will be unloaded, and as it is unloaded here, the water from the sieve tube of the phloem will be moving back through osmosis into the xylem vessel. This is how the pressure flow hypothesis is telling about the mechanism of the transportation of the food material from the source to the sink. Next one is the giddling or ringing experiment. For that, you can see cut off a ring of bark including phloem but leaving the xylem. A bark is being cut off including phloem, but xylem will be present there. Immerse in water and observe swelling which is being observed above the cut, and this part will be again immersed in water, and we have to observe what is happening there. Surely we can see swelling will be taking place above the cut where the cut is been done, above that area a swelling will be taking place, and it is taking place due to the accumulation of organic solutes that came from higher up the tree and could no longer continue downward because of the disruption of phloem. The solute which is being present there, it has to move to the root. So from the top, when it reaches that area, there it is blocked, and because of that only swelling is taking place, because phloem is the only vessel, or it is the only tissue, or we can say phloem is the only vascular tissue which is able to transport the food material, and phloem is not present there. That's why what happened, the swelling is taking place there. Later the bark below the griddle died because it no longer received sugars from the leaves. Eventually the roots and then the entire tree died. What happens at last? The part which is not able to receive the sugar will not be able to grow nicely, and at last the root and the entire tree will be dying. That is the ringing experiment. From this experiment we can say that organic solutes are transported only by the help of phloem tissues. So here you can see this is the ringing experiment where the area or the bark is removed, and it is be removed till the xylem, and at last what happened, you can see this is the swelling area, as organic solutes they are accumulated there on the above part, and it is not reaching to the below part, and due to that what happened, the root as well as the entire tree will be dying. And this experiment is telling that phloem is the only tissue which is able to transport the solute or the organic food from the root to the tip or from the tip to the root. I think you would have understood about it. Giddling experiment proves that phloem is the tissue responsible for the translocation of food. You can see the result here. The removal of phloem prevents the transport in the plants. So immediately after ringing experiment, this is what is, xylem is unaffected but phloem is not present there. But later on, after 1 year, what happened? A swelling is taking place there, isn't it? Tissues above ring swollen with sugar which has passed down from the leaf. So later on what happened? Tissues below ring beginning to die since no sugar has been transported across the ring. So this is what is happening there in the plants. So my dear children, I think you would have understood today's session nicely. Go through this session or this part, these topics very clearly, and you have to understand it very nicely. If you are having any doubt related to today's session, please give me a call and clarify your doubts. So dear children, with this your 7th chapter is completed. You have to prepare the notes and be ready for showing the notes also. Please be on track. Okay. By saying this, I wind the session here. We will be meeting in the next session with a new chapter. Till then, take care.